Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make a reverse dyed shirt. The shirt was washed, but it hasn't been soaked in anything, it's just damp from plain water. I'm going to start out by centering the shirt, and this process is going to go pretty fast, but I have a link down below in the description for this video to another video which shows how to center a shirt. Essentially what I'm doing is getting both sides of the front of the shirt next to each other and both sides of the back of the shirt next to each other. That way, whenever I either remove the color or apply the dye to the shirt, the front is going to look more symmetrical and so will the back. Okay, so now that the shirt is centered, I'm going to take the bottom hem of the shirt and fold it up to the neck of the shirt, essentially folding the shirt in half. I want to make sure I get any of the wrinkles out, especially on this seam where I just folded the shirt. Then to draw the diamond portion on the shirt, I'm going to use a straight edge and a piece of white chalk. To tie the diamond, I'm going to fan fold this line and I'm going to tie it with sinew. The sinew that I use is an artificial sinew and it's wax coated, so everywhere where I place a sinew line and I tighten it down really tight on the shirt, that's not going to allow the color remover or the dye underneath that line or in that area. So those lines where I use sinew are going to remain black after I use a color remover. I have a link down below in the description for this video for the kind of sinew that I purchased from Amazon. I also have a lot of links to other items that I use when I tie-dye. To tie the sinew, I'm wrapping it around the area a couple of times, and then I'm holding my hand flat against the shirt so that the folds don't buckle up when I start to pull on the sinew. I'm pulling on the sinew and pulling it as tightly as I can. Then normally I give a couple more wraps of the sinew and repeat the pulling process until it gets really, really tight. Then going out toward the center of the diamond, I'm going to continue making sinew lines, and as I get closer to the center of the diamond, I'm going to make the sinew lines closer together. I'm not really measuring my lines, I'm just kind of eyeballing and placing them a little closer each time I make a new line. If you want your lines to be a little bit wider, you can give a few additional wraps of sinew. That's totally up to you. Wrapping the sinew lines on top of each other and pulling it as tightly as you can is pretty much the secret to using sinew really well. When the sinew lines are wrapped on top of each other and I begin to pull the sinew, it starts to tighten down on itself. You can actually feel when the sinew locks and starts to catch, and that's about the time that I quit pulling it. Usually I can't pull it anymore past that point. If I don't continue pulling until I feel it lock and I can't pull it any tighter, then whenever I put the shirt through the color remover, or if it were a white shirt, if I just applied dye to the shirt, the dye is going to soak underneath the sinew lines. When I get all the way down to the very end, I'm going to go ahead and wrap my sinew back a little ways. I'm not going to take it all the way back to the initial line, but if I cut it off when it's right at the very end, it has more of a tendency to unravel going through this whole reverse dye process. On the other side of the initial line that I fan folded and tied, I'm going to continue the fan folds, and this time as I go out toward the end of the shirt, I'm going to make the sinew lines further apart. I'm going to use some rubber bands to hold the folds in place until I can get my sinew lines tied. It's important when you get to these wider areas of the shirt to make sure that as you wrap the sinew, you try to keep all of the pleats flat. You don't want the shirt to buckle when you're wrapping the sinew. If it does and it forms a gap or an area underneath the sinew, that's going to allow the color remover to get under that area and remove the color from that area. You also may notice that I'm fighting with my sinew just a little bit. My husband nicked my main roll of sinew with a knife, and so when I put it on my sinew puller, I have a few frayed areas of sinew. Okay, so now it's time to start the color removal process. Normally, I allow the shirts to dry out for maybe a day or so, just to get some of the dampness out of them before I do this process. But I'm on a bit of a time crunch this time, so I'm going to go ahead and do the color removal process on the shirts while they're still damp. I'm using a product called Out White Brite Laundry Whitener, and I purchased mine at Walmart in the laundry aisle. However, if you can't find some at one of your local stores, I have a link down below where you can purchase it from Amazon. I'm obviously doing quite a few shirts all at the same time, and I'm placing them inside of a plastic container, and I'm using this product outside. It has a smell, so I don't like to use it inside, and I also wear my respirator the entire time because I don't want to inhale any of this powder or the fumes. I'm starting by liberally sprinkling a lot of the powdered Out White Brite over the top of the shirts. Then I'm going to pour boiling hot water over the top. And if you notice when I do, the Out White Brite starts to immediately bubble and remove the color. I've never removed the color from this many shirts in one container at a time. And just ignore this part, this is a different shirt that I'm working on. In a few minutes, I'm going to come back and add some more boiling hot water to the container because I want to make sure that the shirts get fully saturated. I wanted to remove the color from this one though before I got the container too full. Before I add some more water to the top, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle a little bit more Outright Brite. Like I said, this is a whole lot of shirts in this container all at one time. I've sped the video up, but I allowed the shirts to sit in the Outright Brite for about 10 minutes. It started to lightly rain, so I didn't film the entire process. Then I took the shirts to my utility sink and I rinsed them in cold water. After rinsing them in cold water, I put them into my washing machine along with a little bit of Dharma's textile detergent and washed them using a hot water cycle. Then after they were washed, I put them into a soda ash solution and allowed them to soak for at least 20 minutes. As I've mentioned before, previously colored or dyed shirts, or shirts that have had a dye removal process done to them, can sometimes leak out color. So I actually have a soda ash solution that I use specifically for shirts like that. But if you don't, I would recommend taking some of your original soda ash and pouring it into another container so that you don't contaminate your entire soda ash container. I've placed the shirt down inside of a piece of heavy-duty aluminum foil, and I'm making a little boat out of the aluminum foil. I'm going to end up adding a little bit of liquid dye down into this aluminum foil boat. In case you weren't aware, soda ash will eat through aluminum foil and aluminum pans. It will cause little small holes in the aluminum. So if you ever use any of the aluminum foil disposable pans that you can get at the store, you need to put them inside of another container because after you use them a few times, they will begin to leak. So I'm placing my aluminum foil boat on top of a metal rack. If you'll notice, part of my sinew came unraveled right at the very end, or what is the center of the diamond. I left the shirt tied for the entire color removal and putting the shirt through the washing machine and through the soda ash solution and through wringing it out of my Panda spin dryer. So overall, the sinew did pretty well to stay intact. To avoid this part unraveling, I could have gone ahead and woven the sinew all the way back to my original line and not cut it off at all. I decided not to go ahead and add more sinew either because the lines that I have on this shirt are black and they're going to show through any of the colors that I'm going to apply to the shirt. Also, the lines are so small in this part of the shirt that I'm really going to just add 2 colors to this area. I'm using Lime Pop from Dharma and Blue Linen from Dye Spin. For the rest of the shirt, I'm going to apply a different color to each sinew section. I'm using Lime Twist from Custom Colors, Washed Denim from Dye Spin, and Irish Green from Dye Spin. I'm going to continue using these 5 colors in order on down the shirt. Now I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top of the die and place some ice on top. I decided to go ahead and incline this shirt, so I'm placing the entire aluminum foil boat inside of a piece of vinyl guttering. I have a little bit of leftover liquid dye that I'm going to place down inside of the aluminum foil boat. I'm using turquoise from Custom Colors, sky blue from Dharma, and royal blue from Dye Spin. I'm just going to pour the liquid dye in a couple of different areas to the aluminum foil boat. Then to incline the shirt, I'm going to put one end of the metal rack and the vinyl guttering down inside of the bottom of the container. I ended up adding a second coat of ice to this shirt because there was a little bit of the lime green left on top that hadn't dissolved. Then I actually went out of town for a few days, so I let this shirt sit for about 5 or 6 days before I began rinsing it. That's not necessary, but I would definitely leave it at least 24 hours after the ice melts. I started rinsing the shirt in cold water to rinse out any of the soda ash that was remaining in the shirt. Then I untied the shirt and warmed the water up to hot and continued rinsing to rinse out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. Instead of rinsing for a long time, I just added some hot water to my utility sink, a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent, and allowed the shirt to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed the water out and continued the soaking process until the water was almost clear. Then I put the shirt along with some Dharma's textile detergent into my washing machine and washed it using a hot water cycle. Then after the shirt was washed and dried, this is what it looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? So I have to tell you, I think this is one of my favorite designs to do when I do reverse dyeing. I think that this design ends up looking like a matrix vortex or a vortex matrix. I think it's really cool. I like the way the lines get smaller as they go toward the middle and larger as they come toward the outside of the shirt. I think that's a really cool effect. I also like the black lines that are going into the center where not all of the color got removed from those areas. I really think that adds to the design. I also really like the colors that I used on this shirt. The lime pop and the lime twist really do pop off of the shirt. I also think that the blue complements the green really well. I'm not sure that the liquid dye made a huge difference on this shirt either. There wasn't a whole bunch of it that I added to the little aluminum foil boat, and then part of it ran out of the aluminum foil when I inclined the shirt. I can't really tell that I inclined this shirt either from the design on the shirt. I think there's just too much going on with the black lines. It covers up any of the incline effect. So overall, I'm really happy with the shirt. I think it looks really cool. And if you guys have enjoyed this video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.